There, Botafogo fans are outraged with the club over the possible sale of Danilo to Flamengo and Palmeiras. And there's a new development for us to bring to you here regarding the possible departure of the midfielder, and many people believe that he would only leave for a club abroad. We're also going to bring you complete information about the upcoming Flamengo versus Estudiantes match at Maracanã, and we'll also bring information about the Estudiantes coach taking Flamengo's side in the Copa Libertadores and wants to help Flamengo before tonight's game. We also have other information to bring you, right? Regarding the transfer market, there's a lot for us to share. Here on the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel, we come in like this. Hey guys, red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. If you're just joining us, I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe down below. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell and drop a like on the video. We're here. Brought to you by Mais Cabello. You can lose weight in a healthy way with Mais Cabello and also take care of your scalp and your hair health. There's a Mais Cabello near you all over Brazil. Just look for it. There's always one close to where you live. For sure, there's a Mais Cabello right next to you. It is the leader in the hair segment. Well, we're also here to remind you that you can secure your spot at Flamengo's games, both inside and outside Rio de Janeiro, with tickets included. And you can also travel to follow the Champions League with Haroldo's Caravan. Well, let's go. We have some important information to share with you right away, right? Let's start right away by letting everyone know, right? There's an important announcement for you. Today's Flamengo game will be broadcast, by the way. Right. Today I'm going to do a live stream in the afternoon with Marcelo Razan from Paramount Plus, right? And man, the broadcast is on Paramount, okay? So you can make sure right now that you have a way to watch it, man. It's going to be a fantastic broadcast today on Paramount Plus, okay? So you already know that the game will be broadcast on Paramount. Look, I'm bringing you all the information. For example, look, the game is at 9:30 p.m., right? 9:30 p.m. Flamengo's projected lineup. Rossi, Royal, or Varela. Man, I believe he's going to go with Varela. Okay, guys? A lot of people are talking about Royal, but I believe he'll go with Varela, Leo Ortiz, Leo Pereira, and Ayrton Lucas. Yeah, Everton, Araujo, Jorginho, and Paquetá. Yeah, Carrascal, right? Or Plata. Plata was still recovering. Bruno Henrique on the left wing and Pedro. A lot of people like that, right? Bruno Henrique on the left wing. Everyone thinks it's interesting to see Bruno Henrique playing with Samuel Lino giving space to Bruno Henrique. Man, there are a lot of complaints about Lino, even though he's improved and all. A lot of people want to see Bruno Henrique playing on the left wing. Yeah, as for players out, we know Flamengo is getting some players back, right? Arrascaeta has already reported to the Uruguayan national team to do his recovery work there. So Flamengo doesn't really have any absences at the moment, okay? Estudiantes projected lineup: Muslera, Mancuso, Pires, Palacios, and Nunes, Gabriel Neves, Amondaray, and Piovi, Farias, Carrillo, and Cetre. So that's the probable lineup for Estudiantes. From coach Eduardo Dominguez, the referee is Esteban Ostorich from Uruguay, right? The whole team is actually Uruguayan. The assistants are Martin Sopi and Horacio Ferreira, and the VAR is Leodan Gonzalez, okay? So the game is at 9:30 p.m., and we know that Flamengo really needs this win to secure first place in the group and the overall first place in the Libertadores. They're very close now. They just need to beat Cusco at home. Flamengo should win against Cusco, especially because if you think about it, even in Peru, Alianza beat Cusco 8-0. It's a very weak team, right? Away from high altitude, Flamengo should win. So if they win today, they pretty much secure first place overall in the Copa Libertadores group stage. And there's a lot of anticipation regarding the possible returns of Gonzalo Plata and also Eric Pulgar. That's why we don't even talk about Eric Pulgar and Gonzalo Plata being out, because there's this expectation today that both of them will be included, right? Both of them trained normally. That's a huge boost, impressive, very important. Plata had been doing really well in the last games. Yeah, if Plata can play, I actually see him ahead of anyone else for the right side, even ahead of Carrascal. For me, Plata is ahead. He's playing really well, so he had that knock on his knee, but he's recovered. According to Bruno Lemos, who also works there with Mauro Santana, yeah, he trained normally, okay? So Plata is an option there, even though Carrascal is listed in the probable lineup. I think if he's at 100%, he could start the match. That's the question. Is he really at 100% to start the match? Being able to start the match with Plata on the right and Bruno Henrique on the left would be perfect, with Pedro leading the attack. Yeah, but that's the good news. Eric Pulgar is also recovered, but I don't know if he'll start the match. Although the probable lineup has Everton Araujo there, I believe Pulgar will be included and could come in during the match. So Flamengo gains more options, right? So Flamengo is really only missing Arrascaeta, but they're gaining more options. And there's still the match against Palmeiras, right? Where they won't be able to count on him. There's Danilo, right? Who ended up being sent off, and Flamengo won't be able to count on him. But there are some important returns coming up. For this one, looking ahead to the match against Palmeiras, which is decisive this weekend. And we don't know if there'll be another game, right, against Coritiba, because Flamengo is working behind the scenes trying to postpone this game against Coritiba. Since Flamengo has about 10 players, actually, 9 players who have been called up. It's crazy for Flamengo to play. It's the team with the most players called up in Brazilian football, and yet in South American football, you still have to play. You're being punished, like we said, so BAP is working behind the scenes, trying to get this Flamengo versus Coritiba match postponed, which would be fair, right? After all, you're giving players to the national teams, and you're going to be punished for it. It's absurd, right? But the important thing is that Flamengo has players coming back, right? Jorginho, for example, isn't going to his national team. Eric Pulgar, Chile isn't in the cup, and Everton Araujo wasn't called up. So there are players that Flamengo will have and will still be able to use if they have to play this match. And now let's talk about the coach of Estudiantes, right? Who ended up speaking out in favor of Flamengo in this forfeit situation, right? WO being awarded the points from the game against Independiente Medellin. This statement from the Argentine coach is important, right? The coach of Estudiantes. Yeah, look, I actually wanted to tell you all that for this upcoming game. Flamengo also got some players back. Lucas Paquetá had that problem, right? That tackle on his shin. And it's important to mention that Lucas Paquetá is 100%. He trained at Ninho do Urubu, Nindorubu. He's fully recovered. So there's no concern at all regarding Lucas Paquetá. Limitation, he can only enter in the second half? No, there are no restrictions. Okay? Lucas Paquetá starts the game. He's 100% happy, called up for the World Cup. He starts playing against Estudiantes, all right? He's 100%, everything's good to go. So the delay in a decision from CONMEBOL about the possible forfeit of the match between Independiente Medellin and Flamengo is already starting to bother even the coach of Estudiantes, tonight's opponent. Alexander Medina's statement was as follows. For us, it's important to know the result because it's a match that should have been played at the scheduled time. The decision needs to be made before the match, right? Flamengo and Estudiantes before, not after. For the competition to be taken as seriously as possible, we need to go onto the field against Flamengo already knowing what's going to happen. In other words, since they're behind, they need to know what they need, right? They have to know what they need. It's crazy to play without knowing if you're already qualified, without knowing what result you need to qualify. They're right there behind Flamengo, and with the walkover, they'll go to 10 points, right? Yeah, Estudiantes wants to know what they need, the result he needs, right? He also understands this. Look, if Flamengo already has 10 points, they're going to play more relaxed. Flamengo will already play more relaxed. They can't be overtaken by us anymore. Flamengo will go in. They'll go in relaxed. So that's how they are. It could happen if Flamengo slipped up in the last round against Cusco. But I understand his side. He's not just fighting for Flamengo, whether he wants to or not. He ends up fighting for Flamengo's cause. He ends up helping Flamengo. But what he really wants, right, is for the decision to come out so he knows, right, what he needs, right? That's right. CONMEBOL can't take so long to make a decision. They wanted to push it to the 19th. They said they would resolve it on the 19th and didn't resolve anything, right? Today is the 20th. The expectation was that the latest would be the 19th, so it would come out on the 20th, and so far, nothing. Shameful. Look, and I want to remind you that you can get the official Flamengo caps. Look here, these ones from Supercap. You can get them here on YouTube Shop, okay? And all Flamengo products, Mango's long sleeve, this long sleeve here, all official Mango products, you can get them here at the YouTube store, okay? You will always be able to get all the official Flamengo products here on the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. You help our channel and you also help Flamengo. It's very important for you to get your official Flamengo products, always here on YouTube or at the official online and physical stores. And now it's time to bring information about Danilo's situation, right? Botafogo's midfielder, Botafogo wants 40 million euros for Danilo, while Flamengo's offer that was made public is 32 million euros. Caio Ribeiro said that Flamengo's offer was higher than Palmeiras, which was also made and put on the table. And then the news came out that Palmeiras had already made one of 34 million euros. And we brought the information that Flamengo would have pulled out of the deal, would have given up on the deal. They wouldn't get into this fight, this bidding war with Palmeiras, right? Yeah, Caio Ribeiro insists that Flamengo's offer is higher than Palmeiras. Regardless of all that, right, of us knowing what's really going on, the information we're getting, the accounts that cover Botafogo, is that Botafogo prefers to sell him to a foreign club. Another important piece of information is that Botafogo is standing firm, wanting 40 million euros. So the thing is, I'm going to bring some important details here as well. But the Botafogo fans don't want the player to be sold, especially not to Flamengo. The rivalry is winning out. That's how we see it. Out of 10 comments from Botafogo fans, 8 say, first of all, don't even sell to Palmeiras, but definitely don't sell to Flamengo. Most Botafogo fans would sell to Palmeiras, but not to Flamengo. They don't want to sell to Flamengo under any circumstances, pressuring the board not to sell the player to Flamengo. Then 2 comments say don't sell to Flamengo or Palmeiras, sell abroad for God's sake, don't sell to either of them, don't strengthen a rival here in Brazil. But the main concern of the Botafogo fans from the neighborhood is that they don't sell the player to Flamengo. They're not even worried about Palmeiras. Not much, okay? It's a small percentage. They're always worried about Flamengo. It's the big bad guy that always bothers them. So they don't care. They'd rather strengthen, see Palmeiras become champions, see Palmeiras with a stronger team. But with Flamengo, that's a no-go, right? So it's their decision. That's it. The information that came out is that the offer, information from Estadão, okay, that the offer from Flamengo was presented to the Botafogo board by the player's agent, okay, the player's own agent, Giuliano Bertolucci, okay? Yeah, he was the one who took Flamengo's proposal to Botafogo, right? The report also adds that Botafogo has not yet received the proposal that was sent. It talks about the 34 million euros from Palmeiras. That's 200 million reais, right? According to the journalist Bernardo Gentili, but according to Estadão, they haven't received this proposal from Palmeiras yet. Yeah, I'll take this opportunity to share the information with you again regarding our investigation, right? I'll even get the message I received here, right? About the possible signing by Flamengo. It's Flamengo. They understand that they won't spend 30-something million euros on someone who is very good, okay? But it's not a priority, especially since Paquetá plays in the same position, right? Defensive midfielder. Flamengo is well covered there. Yeah, from what they're telling us, this transfer window is going to be much more functional than flashy, okay? It's a transfer window for younger players, but with a hunger to win. So even names like Leo Cienza, right, who they're talking about, a player from Southampton who's also not a cheap player. The team is in the second division, okay? They're not going up. It seems like they're willing to negotiate the deal. He's 27 years old, and Flamengo is looking for even younger players, okay? Flamengo is looking for players even younger than that, okay? Yeah, more fitness. It's a window to according to what we've been told, it's a window to improve Flamengo's fitness for the team to be more physically stronger. So, então, I think that some names when we start hearing them, we can already rule them out right away, right? For example, I looked into this name, okay? I'll bring you more about this situation later, about Leo Cienza. But I believe Flamengo will be looking for players under 26. He's already 27, but he's right on the edge there. But I think Flamengo will look for cheaper and younger players, okay? So Flamengo is going to do some scouting, as we've already told you. And now, if there's an opportunity, especially for the attack, that's great. The truth is this, my friends. It's something I firmly believe. Me. I'll always remember that interview with BAP where he said that Flamengo was going to try to spend $1 billion and all that, but he made it clear that he was going to make things difficult for the other clubs. And Fabricio Kiko talks a lot about this regarding Flamengo, using the tactic of inflating the market to make it harder for other Brazilian clubs to sign players. In other words, if I'm not going to sign the player, I inflate the price so that Palmeiras has a hard time signing him and has to either look for someone else or spend more. Yeah, or sign him by spending more. So Flamengo inflates the price to force Palmeiras to sign by paying more, okay? They're going to sign, fine, but they'll pay more. That's BAP's tactic, not just with Palmeiras, but with others as well. But since it's Palmeiras that's competing now, in this case, right, competing for Danilo, it would be Palmeiras with Luis Eduardo Baptista involved. Bapi would be involved in this Danilo negotiation, aiming to make the deal more expensive. It's a market tactic, right, that I think should be valued. The president of Flamengo assessed that this is the best situation. It's about getting into the negotiations for the main players in the country to inflate the prices and with that, make it harder for those clubs to sign them. But that's selfishness. The others aren't selfish. He has to do what he thinks is right and he has to think about Flamengo. And then, obviously, right, Flamengo fans will be expecting Danilo, Luis Enrique, and so on. But he's there, right? Marking his territory. Trying, right? Trying. So many times, talking to Flamengo fans, right? Flamengo fans who often say, man, they're trying to sign everyone and end up signing no one. Now it's explained, Flamengo will go for it if they can sign someone. Sometimes they sign someone, but most of the time it's just to shake things up. That's it. I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and like the video. Did I mention my predicted score today? My predicted score today is 2-0 for Flamengo, 2-0 for Flamengo. Thank you so much for your company. Red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Big hug. Thanks. I'm out.